ReefDudes is sponsored by Ecotech Marine and Bulk Reef Supply. Today we're diving into the Terrarium Ecosystem, aka my little chunk of jungle. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now, it's been far too long since I've done an update on the dart frog Vivarium. Now, this thing has probably been up for close to 2 years now, and you can tell by how grown in things are. It's definitely turning into its own little jungle in more ways than one. You know, we've got vines growing up the walls, we got the bromeliads coming all over the place. We've added pitcher plants, and they're growing over the edges. We've got jewel orchids in the bottom that have been flowering and kind of spreading throughout the tank. So it's really cool to see everything establish itself over time. And I think it looks cooler and cooler and more natural over time as it just becomes its own little jungle. Now, I do say this is probably one of the easiest pets I've kept over the years is these dart frogs. They are full of tons of personality. I still absolutely love that kind of tealy blue color. And these guys are bold. When I was originally looking into dart frogs, I was trying to decide which type to get. And a couple of requirements I had is one, I wanted one that was fairly quiet. These guys, I've never heard them call, so they're basically silent. And I wanted ones that can be kept well in groups, so I want something that was fairly bold and social. Now, I have 6 of them in here, and they all get along well. Everyone's happy together. They're very bold, which means you see them all the time. I regularly look over, and there's 5 or 6 of them just hanging out. If you feed little fruit flies, they're within seconds, they're all out there just munching them down, and it's really cool to see. Now, the cool thing with these guys are they are somewhat arboreal. They will climb my big tree structure, and I will find them all over throughout the tank. They do tend to hang out on the bottom most of the time, but there's usually a couple that are up in the tree. Now, a lot of people just do a standard terrarium with some plants inside, which is a cool way to do it. But when you add some creatures to it, it just adds a whole new kind of perspective to life and turning that terrarium into an actual ecosystem. Now, this one I had custom built into a cabinet. I think it gives it a really cool look. I'm very stoked how this has turned out, and it kind of turns into a visually stunning piece of furniture in the room. And I do say it's probably been one of the easiest things to maintain ever. If you're growing house plants, sometimes they'll bite the dust on you or you're worried about watering it perfectly. With this vivarium, it has misters inside. So it automatically mists itself for me, a handful of times a day. It keeps the humidity up. And all of these tropical plants seem to thrive in there. There's been no issue keeping plants. So if you're struggling with house plants, this might be a really cool way to go, is start off with a terrarium. And if you eventually want to advance to it, if you're into reef tanks and fish and pets, adding something like dart frogs to it makes it a really cool, easy to maintain kind of feature in your home. When I do say easy, they are extremely easy. Now, I'm used to keeping saltwater aquariums and, dosing, maintaining corals. So keeping, my land corals like hay plants is actually extremely easy in comparison. And I think it's equally as stunning, especially if you want something that's more on the low maintenance side of things. But yeah, as time goes on, I just think it grows in. It looks cooler and cooler and more natural. All the fake vines that I build are absolutely covered in moss now, and I even have real roots coming down as well. So it just completely sells the effect of it being a actual chunk of jungle. And you'll see multiple sides of it as well. I think it really kind of takes that viewpoint of that little slice of jungle. As for the dart frog side of things, these guys are extremely easy. There is zero special care. As long as your humidity and temperature is maintained, they are extremely easy. I do feed them fruit flies every couple days. Now, don't worry, they're not going to escape and fly around your house. The ones you feed are actually flightless, and you can buy them. They're about $10 for a deli cup container, but I tend to culture my own, and it's extremely easy. It takes a couple minutes once a week to make a new batch, and you're good to go for a few weeks. So every week I kind of just make a new little container of it, and it kind of ongoing sustains me, and it probably costs, $1 to make them. And extremely cheap pets on that perspective once you already have them. Now, it's really cool. From having them so long, these guys have bred in the tank. They've laid eggs, and I've actually raised the tadpoles into little frogs. It was a really cool experiment. Now, it wasn't hard per se, but it definitely did take some time. So right now I'm just keeping the adults. So I'm not trying to raise any eggs, but it was a pretty cool experience to go through that and, see the little eggs all the way through fruition to little tiny frogs. And these guys are always active. I'm sitting at work at my computer, I'll catch something out of the corner of my eye, and there'll be a dart frog leaping across, one branch to another and flying over. Or they'll be up against the glasses, peeking out, being like, hey, what's going on out there? What you doing? And it's freaking hilarious. Even as I'm trying to film this, some of them are trying to jump on the edge and be like, hey, what's happening out there? So they're definitely characters and really cool little buddies. But yeah, if you guys are looking to expand, from the saltwater side and, dabble in terrariums, I think it's a really cool kind of parallel hobby. And if you already have terrariums and you're looking at turning into something a little more bioactive, adding some life and more of an actual ecosystem, I think dart frogs are a super cool way to do it. Now, the guys that I went with were the Dendrobates auratus, and these guys are called Elcope. And yeah, they've been awesome. They've been extremely easy, 2 years in now, and they're one of the easiest pets I've owned. Super duper duper easy overall. And they constantly crack me up. And I just really love the parallels of seeing, all the plants and, the worm jungle life right beside kind of the cool fluorescent corals, especially with one on the desk, one beside. It's just like such a cool contrast to each other. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this update on my little ecosystem. If you did, as always, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you have any questions on it, let me know in the comments below. Catch you guys on the next update.